The canal and railroad come to town. The Morris Canal was a 107-mile canal across northern New Jersey. It was in use from the late 1820s to the 1920s. It went all the way from Phillipsburg, New Jersey on the Delaware River, all the way to Jersey City, New Jersey on the Hudson River. It made it easier to transport coal from the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania to northern New Jersey's growing iron industry. By the 1850s, the canals were being taken over by the construction of railroads. The tracks of the Morris and Essex, later taken over by Lackawanna Railroad, were laid through our area in 1854. I chose my historical marker project to be based on local transportation from 1771 to 1924. I found it more interesting to be able to connect the history of canal versus railroad. Come follow me on my journey through time, and while I explore how the canal and railroad came to town. The first stop on our tour is the Daniel Lewis Carey House. This historical marker was placed in 1976. It is located on Emmons Road in Roxbury Township, New Jersey, circa 1771. The original stone portion of this house was built by Lewis Carey. Lewis's property was acquired from his father Daniel. Many victims were buried on the surrounding hillside. Additions to the house were made in the 1930s and 1980s. The sign reads, "In 1778, soldiers from the Revolutionary War that were sick with smallpox were brought here to reveal the overcrowding of the Succossona Presbyterian Church that was used as a hospital." This historical marker is also located on the Morris County Heritage Commission list. The second stop on our tour is Carey Station. This historical marker was placed in 1986. It is located on Emmons Road in Roxbury Township, New Jersey, circa 1870 to 1902. The earliest section of this house was built by Lewis Carey in 1790. When the Central Railroad of New Jersey came through Roxbury in 1876, a stop was established on this property. Carey's grandson William used the railroad ship fire sand used in the production of bricks. The railroad built a 12-by-16 wooden station here in 1893. Residents used the station until 1932, when passenger operations ceased. Freight trains still run on the tracks today. Carey was a resident of Roxbury Township in his day, and active in the organization and building of the old Presbyterian Church of Succossona. He assisted in running the original railroad line from Dover to Hackettstown. Carey was born on November 30th, 1858, on the old Carey estate. He received his education at the local school in Flanders, Morris County, and later at Stattenberg School on Schooley's Mountain. After completing his studies, he took up his father's profession as a surveyor and worked until 1879. Then he went west. He stayed for 3 years, but then returned to his old home and managed his father's sandpit. The marker reads, Carey Station, 1870 to 1902. Crossroad flag stop built by William S. Carey, who utilized Central Railroad to transport kaolin and fire sand mined on his farm. A state house occupied by Carey family continuously from 1769 to 1950. This marker can be found on the National Register of Historic Places, the New Jersey Register of Historic Places, and the Morris County Heritage Commission list. The next stop on our tour is the Butler Railroad Station. This historical marker was placed in 1997. It is located on Upper Main Street in Butler, New Jersey, circa 1888. The Butler Railroad Station was constructed by the New York Susquehanna and Western Railroad in 1888 to replace an 1872 station built by Midland Railroad Company of New Jersey. Freight trains brought raw materials destined for local mills and left with finished products headed to market. Passenger trains brought vacationers who owned lakefront homes in the surrounding hills. Train service continued until 1966. The borough now owns the station, which has become the Butler Museum. The mayor of Butler, William Monahan, encouraged the town of Butler to purchase the station in 1975. Through hard work of the community members, the station was renovated and the museum was dedicated on May 8, 1976. The three original rooms of the historic 1888 station were filled with artifacts displayed that have been donated by people's businesses and community groups that want to preserve the history of Butler. There have been many structural changes at the museum in the last 30 years. The most recent renovation to the museum was changing the old freight room to a new resource center in 2003. The room was dedicated to R. Kennedy Carpenter. Mr. Carpenter was a Butler High School science teacher and fencing coach from 1943 to 1975. He continued his involvement with the museum until he died in 1987. The old New York Susquehanna and Western Railroad station was built to replace an old 1872 station built by the Midland Railroad Company. After 78 years of service, the last passengers left the station in 1966. It is one of the few remaining wooden structures of its kind. The sign reads, Butler Railroad Station, former passenger and freight station built by the NYS&W Railroad in 1888. Served as the transportation hub spurring economic growth in the community, and this historical marker is also located on the Morris County Heritage Commission list. Here is our fourth stop, the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad. This historical marker was placed in 1978. It is located on Myrtle Avenue, Main and Division Street, in Boonton, New Jersey, circa 1904. This station was built by the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad in 1904. Characterized by the brick and stone structure, represents the modern era that brought steam, power, to Boonton, and other small towns throughout America. In Boonton, the railroad carried not only passengers but also products produced by the local iron industry, as well as the coal used to fuel that industry. The Boonton branch was completed in 1870 and ran for 34 miles from Hoboken, New Jersey to the Dover Junction. As part of the local Morris and Essex Railroad, the line was originally built as a freight bypass. By the end of the Civil War in 1865, the Morris and Essex realized that it was not the best freight line because it had to climb steep inclines to Summit, New Jersey. They did not attempt to rebuild the existing line. Instead, they built a whole new line. The new line would leave the Morristown line and then would rejoin Morristown in Dover for a total of 34 miles. The sign reads, Boonton Railroad Station. The DL&W Railroad Station built this prairie-style station in 1904. Passenger trains served the growing commuter population. Freight trains developed coal to heat homes and power local mills, then departed with products headed to market. The sign is located on the Morris County Heritage Commission list, the New Jersey Register of Historic Places, and the National Register of Historic Places. The next stop on our tour is the Mountain Lakes Railroad Station. The sign reads, Mountain Lakes Railroad Station, 1912. Built on property once owned by Hero Bull, former slave. Cornerstone laid by Belle de Rivera, famed suffragette railroad instrumental in development of Mountain Lake Station, burned in 1915 and was rebuilt in 1919. The sign is located on the Morris County Heritage Commission list. This historical marker was placed in 1980. It is located on Midvale and Woodland Roads in Mountain Lakes, circa 1912. The railroad played an important role in the development of Mountain Lakes as a commuter community. The Mountain Lakes Railroad Station was built in 1912. Mountain Lakes Station was first served by Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western trains in 1869. Passenger service began of November 15, 1912. The line at that time had 2 tracks, but 2 more tracks were added in 1925. One of the tracks was removed for the iron during World War II, leaving only 3. Mountain Lakes began as a railroad suburb and depended on a steady stream of residents. The railroad served commuters well and promoted New Jersey's suburban life for more than a generation. Here comes our next stop, the Morris Canal site. This historical marker was placed in 1978. It is located on Route 202 and Barney Road in Montville, New Jersey, circa 1831 to 1924. The Morris Canal was in operation from 1831 until 1924. It was an industrial transportation route that extended from Phillipsburg to Jersey City. The Morris Canal had a major impact on New Jersey's economy, culture, and development. The Morris Canal was a champion climber. It left the Delaware River and went across the mountains of northern New Jersey. The sign reads, Morris Canal, 1831 to 1924, industrial transportation route expanding from Phillipsburg to Jersey City. The canal and engineering feat of locks and inclined planes revitalized the iron industry in Morris County. The marker can be found on the lists of the Morris County Heritage Commission, the New Jersey Register of Historic Places, and the National Register of Historic Places. Here we are at our final stop on the tour, the Morris Canal Lock Tender's House. This historical marker was placed in 1979. It is located in Hapakong State Park in Mount Arlington, circa 1825. The Morris Canal helped save the iron industry in Morris County by linking the iron-producing highlands with major ports and waterways. At Lake Hapakong, the Morris Canal reached its highest level, 914 feet above sea level. The lake provided the canal with one of its major sources of water. Today, the Lake Hapakong Historical Museum occupies the Lock Tender's House. The Morris Canal, which connected to Delaware and Hudson rivers, was a major source of commerce, the closest thing to a highway across northern New Jersey. Iron ore was brought by wagon and put on the railroad from mines in Jefferson Township and loaded onto canal boats at Lake Hapakong. Steamboats then towed the canal boats to Canal Lock 62, which was located in what is now Hapakong State Park. The family that operated the canal lock lived in a home alongside the canal, and for much of the canal's existence, and was operated by the Messenger family. Now the Morris Canal was abandoned in 1924, and land surrounding the lock became Hapakong State Park. The Messenger family continued to live in the house and operate the newly constructed dam for the state until the late 1940s. After that, the home was used for park administration, and in 1965 it became home of the Lake Hapakong Historical Museum. Also at this historical marker is the Brooklyn Forge. Follow me. This is the Brooklyn Forge, circa 1750. A mill and forge were first established in this area in the mid-18th century. It operated until the 1820s when the land was sold for the construction of the Morris Canal. Known as the Brooklyn Forge, it purposely furnished iron to the colonists during the Revolutionary War. The sign reads, Morris Canal Lock Tender's House, circa 1825. Gatekeeper's house for Lock 67, through which boats entered and left Lake Hapakong on feeder connecting lake with main canal at landing site of pre-revolutionary Brooklyn Iron Forge nearby. This is Mario signing off. I hope that you enjoyed my Morris County Historical Marker Project virtual tour.